got in.
Yeah, and you were delayed. You live in St. Charles County.
Yes, so where there's been,
a ton of mess, yes.
Started nice. I'm like, I'm going to get on the road and I'll beat this. And, it was 2 hours and 30 minutes.
That's how long it took you?
For going 30 miles.
Oh, wow.
To drive 30 miles. And two things that I observed, the two biggest things probably, if you have rear wheel drive, because there's hills, on the interstate, rear wheel drive cars getting stuck on the hills. They don't, if you don't have some momentum and everybody's kind of creeping along, especially those that are kind of afraid to drive in the snow, they're really going very slow. Rear wheel drive, and if you don't have enough momentum to get up that hill, at Big Bend, there's that hill just past Big Bend, and it was blocked. I mean, we sat there for quite a while because the cars can't move.
Well, in Brentwood and Hanley, that's such a bottleneck. It doesn't matter what time of day.
And when I got off at Hampton and went down to Manchester and DeSoto. That was fine.
It was, so the side streets were better.
Yeah, traffic is heavy, but you can navigate because the highways have become glazed over in some cases, and you have that sheet of ice underneath. So, one of the things I was trying to do was stay off to the side so I could get some traction and find some snow, where it hadn't been already, packed
compacted
down and
in
melted
ice,
and
yes.
iced over. That was a big thing. So it's just, if you don't have to be out this afternoon, it's not that this is the biggest snow that we've ever had, but I got to tell you, this is probably the worst commute in 35 years of doing this. And, we've had some snowstorms in 35 years. This is probably about the worst that it's been that I can remember.
On the interstate.
On the interstates. I mean, we've had some situations where we've had really heavy snow and a lot of it that would slow us down like this, but not for a 1 or 2 inch snowfall.
And the fact, here's 70 at Riverview again, and cars are getting by one lane much more successfully than the other. But either way, they are making progress, so that's good. And what made this so bad, you think, is?
Well, I think part of it is
obviously the timing.
The timing was not great, and it snowed hard. It came in, you get that first inch in maybe an hour and a half or so. So that just glazed over all the roads. And with it being in the 20s, every flake that falls is sticking. And so if you have, a big hill, you're going to have problems with that traditionally, but usually you can navigate with an inch or two of snow. I think once we glazed over and things started to thaw out, and in my travels, I did not see any salt trucks until I got in the city, and the city of St. Louis was, working Manchester Road. And, that's not normally what they do. There's City of Ferguson. A lot of your side roads, they're already treating those side roads.
I think a lot of cities went out and did pre-treat with the salt, and it was able to work. So
but as you see, that's a road you should be able to navigate at a slower speed
with enough traction.
With enough traction,
if you've got some. And I will say the City of Ferguson Fire Department, and I'm sure many fire departments around the region would agree. If you can stay off the road, you help them be able to respond to the just nonstop calls that they're getting from people who really need help.
And I know the Town and Country, not one Town and Country, I think it was DePere Police. They were trying to get to
help the cars get out of the way so they could open things up. But the officer couldn't even, he had to park, 20 cars back and stop and walk all the way up there
scary.
Because, nobody was moving.
Right.
So, but it is, just that situation. Here's another one at 44 and Grand.
44 and Grand, and Paul, 44 and Grand, didn't they have an accident in the last hour, 44 and Grand? So that's what all this backup is. And I don't know which way, but you can see in the middle, there's at least 2-3 police cars trying to respond to what I assume is that accident. And then you can see beyond the sirens, there's nobody on the road. So completely shut down, parking lot, standstill. Looks like the opposite direction is the same thing. So that looks like hours and hours of backup on the other side. Through the visibility, it looks like those cars on the left are backed up as far as the eye can
they're not
see.
moving much either. So, I mean, that's the way things are shaping up around the area this afternoon on the roads. Once MoDOT can get some salt down, and they get out, but their plows are stuck in everything too. So
that's what they're trying to do right now. They're trying to get out there. As soon as they saw that snow coming in, MoDOT said they tried to get out as fast as they could and mobilize those crews, but it was about a few hours at least earlier than they expected. Let's get to